I am joined by Suhas Prameela with the University of Utah. Suhas, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, tell us how excited you are about this first.
Very excited. This is a dramatic mission, much more complicated than ever, that NASA has undertaken with European Space Agency and other space partners. So really excited to see how this is going to shape the future lunar missions under the Artemis program.
Let's talk about you for 1 minute. What do you do at the U for those who don't know, and how are you connected to NASA? How do you help out sometimes?
Absolutely. So I'm an assistant professor of material science and engineering at University of Utah. A lot of my lab works on materials and manufacturing for some of these space missions. I have lots of students currently working and doing internships at NASA, helping scientists there design really resilient materials for extreme environments that we face on Earth, or even during the transit to the moon.
A lot of people, when they were watching the Artemis II headlines, seeing the pictures and video coming in, maybe they're not steeped into the, the details of all of this. How is this mission different from Artemis II?
Yeah, so there's a big difference in terms of Artemis II was all about circling the moon and being able to ensure that we can communicate with the astronauts during the transit. The big difference with the Artemis III essentially is we are going to stay in the low Earth orbit and carry out a really complex mission of rendezvous and docking capabilities, basically. So what does this mean? So the next Artemis mission 4 is all about lunar landing.
Okay.
And one way to think about this is imagine circling the Earth, going to the moon. Now you have to land on the moon. So in some sense, you need a moon taxi, right? So you need a special lander system that sort of integrates with the Orion capsule that carries the astronauts and takes them to the moon. And that is a very dangerous part of the mission. So what NASA wants to do is practice that in our backyard, right here on the Earth. But it is an incredibly complex mission. They are launching 3 of the most powerful rockets from Blue Origin, SpaceX, and NASA SLS rocket. They're going to launch the crew through the Orion capsule. And while they're in the orbit, about 400 miles from Earth, traveling at about 18,000 miles per hour, they are going to transfer the astronauts to different capsules, or the Pathfinder capsules from Blue Origin and SpaceX, basically. So it's a highly complex mission where they are training the astronauts and the systems, essentially. How do we safely, transfer the crew to different lander capabilities and ultimately land on the moon? So it is a highly synchronized mission.
So they will be testing docking with different types of landers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are 3 rockets that are going to be launched, including the NASA, Blue Origin, and SpaceX. And the whole idea is, can we safely transfer the astronauts to different lander systems so that we can ultimately land on the moon?
Now, so in theory, Artemis IV, that would be when we would actually land on the moon, if
Yes.
everything goes according to plan?
Absolutely. So the plan is essentially to launch the Orion capsule that leaves the Earth, circles the moon. And, there's a big difference compared to the Apollo missions, right? The Apollo missions were all about, can we go and set up a flag, collect some rocks? But Artemis program is all about sustained lunar presence. Can we go and potentially work on moon for multiple weeks or months? So we have had to build completely new powerful rockets, completely complex systems that allow us to carry out these sort of really intricate sort of missions in a way. So we had to separate out these sort of activities with different rockets to go to the moon, and then, as I said, moon taxi to essentially land on the moon as well.
Okay, back on May 28th, the New Glenn rocket, they were doing a static fire, and it exploded. An incredible video of that explosion. How does that impact this mission? How could it impact this mission?
Absolutely. So NASA is very keen to see multiple commercial players sort of come into the picture and help them with lunar missions. And the 2 big players right now are SpaceX and Blue Origin. They want more than one option. With Artemis III, they really want to practice with potentially 2 landers. So the crew first goes in the Orion capsule, then they get transferred to the Blue Origin Pathfinder potentially, And also, towards the end of the Artemis III mission, they get back on the Orion and again get transferred to the Starship, right? So they want to show that there's more than one capability, right? Rocket science is hard, and things do blow up because they contain large propulsion tanks and incredibly complex sort of fuel and oxygen systems. So this is essentially a complexity that everybody sort of envisioned could occur, basically. So it is a bit of a delay, but I would say that we learn from the mistakes. So to me, I think that we're on to two big, incredible commercial players, having a major role during these missions.
Okay, perhaps just a delay caused by that explosion.
Yeah.
Well, Suhas, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Everyone was transfixed by that Artemis II mission. I know everyone's going to be transfixed again. So
yeah, absolutely. Wishing all the 4 astronauts the best of luck with this mission.
And they just revealed the crew earlier this week. So